Welcome back to Everything HR's new segment, Becca's Breakdown, where we cover some of the most important topics our guests have brought up during the Culinary Conversations. The goal of the Culinary Conversations is to speak with leaders in the restaurant world to discuss the hardships and successes they've overcome in growing their businesses. Today we are discussing the top lessons learned from Jason Kennedy and Jasna Ostojich. Becca, how you doing today?
I've seen better days, but you know what? I'm here. I'm alive. I can't complain. You're here with me. Let's do this.
We can always complain. Never forget.
Just later, just not right now.
For sure. Well, today's podcast is actually really unique as far as the restaurant space because both of these individuals, Jason and Jasna, they actually didn't necessarily work. Well, they worked in restaurants, but when I interviewed them, they weren't actively in the restaurant community.
Yeah, it was a very interesting background when reviewing the videos while editing. Very, very interesting background. I think it's really cool. So let's get into it.
Yeah. So Jason, he was the head chef of Infinite Wonder Productions, and one of the really unique things that I want to touch base on here with him is the pop-up restaurant style. So they did a mixture of shows and restaurants.
Okay. I thought the pop-up was actually Jasna.
So she has a pop-up as well, which is Podular. So her company, Podular, is not a pop-up in itself, but it is a food stand, essentially. So her is with Podular, which she's the founder of. It's a circular food stall. And you can have like a little oven in there. They have a sink. They have like stuff, a cash register, like a whole POS system. Like it's pretty unique.
It's like something out of New York. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. So one of the cool things about both of them is just, in fact, their unique styles. Like the uniqueness of the business model is kind of why I wanted to put them together in today's episode. So with Infinite Wonders Productions, if you've ever seen like Karen's Diner or a location like that where the servers are mean to you and
they're meant to be. They're paid to be mean.
Exactly. That's their shtick, right? Well, Infinite Wonder Productions, they kind of took that idea and they made it their own, in which it's a fully immersive dinner show. And this is, not something super, super new in the sense of like a dinner theater. You've got, I'm drawing a blank now, like the Renaissance and stuff like that.
The medieval times.
There you go. Yeah, so like the medieval times and things like that. So this is a business model that clearly works. It is something that can be scaled. But the way they do it is they actually create unique stories, and then they'll pop up within a certain location, and they will have a certain time frame that they're open for, and that's how they kind of service their guests. And it's just a really, really interesting way to do it, to keep it lively, to not have to worry so much about some of the overhead because they're small increments. So one of the big issues when it comes to a restaurant is you'll have slow periods. Like you'll have time frame, well, for 3 months, you'll make a ton of money and you're doing well and people are coming in and out. And then the rest of the year is dead. And that's just how it is sometimes, dependent on the location. But with this model, they don't necessarily have those limits. They have the ability to create something new and to specifically only push in the time frames that work best for them. So really, really unique. Just one thing I want to touch on was just how unique their business model itself was. Another thing is doing what you love, even if it's part-time. One of the things that I really liked about Jason is that he was a middle school teacher. Like that was his day-to-day job, and he'd worked in Denny's and other locations previously in a restaurant, so it gave him the tools he needed to become the head chef of Infinite Wonder Productions. But his day-to-day was not in the restaurant space, and yet he still took it upon himself to work that overtime, to do what he wanted, to pursue the dream. And that's, I think, something that anyone can take.
Mm-hmm.
Like no matter what position you're doing, no matter what, you can really just move forward from there.
Yeah. Watching the both of them, Jason definitely has the aptitude for children and a lively bunch, so to speak. And then when you see him transition while he's talking about the restaurants, you could see just a glimpse of when he was like, "Yeah, I worked for Karen Diner, and sometimes we gotta get mean." It's and then you have Jasna. Am I saying her name correctly?
Jasna?
Jasna. You have Jasna, who has a very gentle, calm demeanor, and could definitely tell she's meant to be an owner.
Mm.
You know, um, not saying Jason's not, but the personas that they have and they put on, it's incredible to see everyone from different aspects. But yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's definitely a great point as far as your personality really does dictate what you're going to be best at. Like, not everyone can be great at everything. There are things that people are better at and things that other people are better at. And that's
Mm-hmm.
just a nice way to kind of enjoy that route. You know, Yasna's experience also came in the food and beverage world. And then she ended up taking it and she ended up going more of a corporate, more of a developing a software and a system that can actually help multiple other people who are trying to start a restaurant or trying to start a stand, whether it be a coffee shop, whether it be a bar, things like that. So, like I said, it's very, very unique that you can look at different styles of businesses and kind of make them your own. So, another topic I want to touch on with Jason was the getting your team to buy in. So when he was working at Denny's, one of the big things that he did is he would move from one location to another, typically the worst stores. Like in that franchise that he was with, they would essentially give him the worst stores. They'd be like, "All right, go fix it," and then he'd have to go in and do it, which is extremely difficult. Like if you've ever worked in fast food, if you've ever, worked really anywhere where the team itself was not succeeding, and then you had to then go out of your way to help them succeed, that is very, very tough.
Sounds like someone here knows a little something about that, Manny.
Yeah. Yep. When I was with the Domino's franchise, it was very similar. You know, the team, it was not horrendous, but
It wasn't great either.
a ton of room for improvement. And one of the biggest things is buying in, which is one of the big topics that I want to touch on here. And when it comes to buying in, it can seem like such a simple thing, but you need at least one person who truly, truly is in it along with whoever the main decision maker is going to be. So, for example, if you are the general manager or you're the owner, then the next step down has to be that person that cares too. Like, it has to be that level of want, desire, accountability, focus, quality. Like, those are all the things that are really, really critical. And I know that for yourself, you've seen it too, where
yeah.
you can join a team and the team is not doing as well as they can. Where have you seen kind of buying in from?
When you say buying in, like you're talking about someone who is willing to put in their full effort, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's great. I mean, that's a great question by itself. What do I mean by buying in?
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, it's buying into the values, the mission, the goal.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the dream outcome that you're looking for? And then do the people want that? Like, do they agree that that is the outcome that everyone wants?
So yes, I have seen that. I'll avoid most recent and current employers just for discretion purposes. But in the past, McDonald's was one of the biggest ones I had. Like looking at just food service wise. Starting out at the Groveland, Florida McDonald's. In my eyes at that time, it was like, nah, it's not a big deal because I was a teenager, I'm young and dumb and I'm here to get a paycheck, so I'm gonna do my job to get that paycheck. What others were doing kind of ticked me off because I'm like, why would you do that? Am I gonna say anything? No, not really. Should I have? Yes, because we had teenagers who would literally clock in and then just leave. Managers would do the same thing. To be honest, it wasn't just the teens. A lot of management at that location, which is horrible. A lot of thieves in and outside of the employment. Like you had guests also stealing. You had employees helping guests steal. by giving like free food away. And I'm not talking about to those who are needy for food. No, I'm talking about like you would have typically students come up and they would know someone that's working behind the register, and they're like, hey, I want something, give me something for free. We're cool, right? We're cool. But that was one of the locations that was it was known for how bad it was. Like even the cleanliness, the way that things were held together, it was bad. So of course, not just employees, but customers are going to treat it as such. And it was considered like the ghetto of the town, of that, like that not the region, because that's huge, the smaller city aspect of it, to where we had fights in the parking lot inside the restaurant. Sometimes we had, looking for a politically correct word here, for those who drive the lifted trucks. At the time, we had a lot of grass in our area. Like the parking lot wasn't fully developed, so we had a lot of grass, and they were ripping and running inside of the grass fields, creating mud and mud pits, and they were constantly getting towed out of it because they kept getting stuck. This is a total mess, and inside and outside of the store, it was just a mess on the property. But it took a while to get it to where it needed to be. And I remember I had transitioned out of that location. I hated that location. Even though I lived like 5 minutes down the road. Transitioned out, worked at another location where I saw what we were supposed to be. And then that changed everything. Because I was like, oh, wait a minute. McDonald's is not some subpar place. Like, we are what makes the brand. So I took everything I learned, then went back to my original location as I had just started as a shift manager. And I started helping with changing everything for the better. But whew, it was work. It was so much work.
I really, really liked where you said that when you went to the new location, you saw what it was supposed to look like. I really like that because that is such a huge thing. When you come into something that's bad and all you know is subpar, low standards, low
to
quality.
You, it's good.
Exactly. Like that's
You're
normal.
Like, this is life.
Exactly. Like that's normal to you. And that makes it so difficult to improve on and so difficult to expand on because everything from there, like that's your new baseline. And it makes it super, super hard to actually improve anything because that's just your new normal. Like that is your baseline of quality.
Yeah.
And
100% accurate.
Yeah, it's definitely, I really, really like that that's how you worded it, and that's the viewpoint that you received when you saw that.
Yeah.
Another really nice thing that Jason brought up was the use of social media. So one of the biggest points that would draw in their crowd, like their customers, was just that. It was just using social media for their marketing. And they didn't have to create like a studio. They didn't have to create, anything super crazy. They created a free online portal, their free platform or whatever. So TikTok, Instagram, whatever. And then they just made videos of what they were already doing. Just someone with a phone walking around and just videotaping what they were actually doing.
That's actually a solid start.
Yeah.
Like using your free resources to get you up and going. That's actually a really solid start, especially to save money and whatnot. Very smart on their part.
Yeah. So that's all you had to do to just kind of get eyes on. Like that's really it. And then if people enjoyed the content, then that's it. You brought someone in and it's just very simple. All right. Now she's laughing at me.
I'm laughing because I know this is a hidden message just to me after our recent conversations outside of the podcast. That's all like, I see what you're getting at, Manny. Okay.
It was not a hidden message.
But I took it and I heard it. We'll go from there.
All right. But one of the big things is it's having to put in the effort without seeing the outcome, right? And that's a really, really hard thing when it comes to creating content. But that's just how it is, right? Like you're never going to see the outcome before the work is put in. The work has to be put in consistently. And then eventually the outcome will be the views or the outcome will be the likes or the outcome will be people calling in and joining, the store. So creating social media posts and things like that can be very, very difficult, but it really just comes down to doing it anyways and being okay at the fact that one person is going to view your stuff, 10 people might view your stuff. Because think of it this way, if you had 10 people that you could be in a room with tell you or tell them about your company, like, isn't that alone enough? Like, isn't that alone, if you get 50 impressions on one post, I would love to have a room full of 50 people where I could talk about Omni HR.
You're so positive.
So that's what it's all about. Like, it's just about pushing out the work up front, because the outcome is a lagging indicator of success. So, another nice thing with Jasna, so moving on to her information, like I said, really, really unique business model, one that you can move anywhere. But for her, one of the things that I found super interesting was one of the reasons that she started the company was because of renting and operating expenses when she used to own a restaurant. So having to deal with actually finding a contract and finding a location and then purchasing it, like all of those costs that are not necessarily hidden, but things that people don't really think about.
A lot of people tend to overlook them.
Yep. And that's what gets you. It's that consistent payment every, month that you have to dole out. It's, it's very similar to owning a house, right?
Yeah.
So it's similar to the mortgage you have to pay. It's similar to the property tax you have to pay. It's similar to the electric, the trash, the water.
The upkeep, the constant maintenance, repairing crap.
Absolutely. Yep. I mean, we were actually talking about this recently with our RV. We didn't know from in the beginning what the RV was going to be like.
Don't get an RV without proper research. It sucks.
And that's a great lead into the big thing that she had brought up, that like the big takeaway that I think that anyone can take is asking the right questions, communicating and talking to people that are already seeing success or already dealing with it.
To add to that, I think one of the things is that people will always say, well, I did the research. I talked to many people. You really have to dig deep. And you have to give it enough time. This is why do I say this? Is because when you're doing any type of research, typically it's online these days, your algorithm will change. And the thing that goes on with your search is that you are going to get the base of the base unless you really probe the questions. By probing, you're changing the algorithm. Your web search is now adapting to understand what you're looking for. It's understanding, they don't want just the top layer of information. They don't want to read just the header. And I'm hoping that's the case with many people who are doing research. They don't want to just read the header to things. But go on there, go look. Like, let's use us for an example. When we were moving up to this area, the greater St. Louis area from Florida, I did my research. I looked for you a place because you were coming up here first. And I was looking up, is this place safe? Are the schools, were the schools curriculums? I didn't probe enough to find out. I didn't get past the touristy information. And that's what really harmed us at the end, because we moved to downtown St. Louis thinking it's going to be great because online says it. And I was even on Google Earth, and Google Earth was showing the area that we were going to live in. It looked solid. It wasn't solid. To put it very frank, it wasn't solid. There were so many issues. There was so much violence. There's such poverty. It's hopefully there'll be a change around. I'm not on here to bash the greater St. Louis area, especially downtown St. Louis. It's more so of my own blunder. And I learned from there to really dive deeper and to give more time for the algorithm to change. Another thing is Reddit. A lot of people bash Reddit. They have no idea how helpful Reddit is. Obviously, it's to each their own. However, if you go on Reddit and you're looking up an area, let's focus on the restaurant. If you're looking up an area that you want to set up for solid profit, look up that area. Look at how popular it is with restaurants. Check out your competition. People are very bold on Reddit, and they will share their opinions. In my opinion, it's very beneficial because you're going to see all the nitty gritty that gets filtered out on regular search engines that typically they may or may not violate the I forgot what they're called, the guidelines, essentially, if there's cursing or something like that. But and this is not advertisement for Reddit, by the way, but you will get a lot of honest opinions on Reddit. And again, to each their own. You still have to do your own reading. Don't just read the headliners. Don't just read a couple of sentences. You have to do a lot of research, which involves a lot of reading. Same thing with the restaurants. A lot of people don't realize the full scope, as you mentioned, the electric, the mortgage, everything, every little thing. You have to even consider a lawsuit. Everyone gets sued at some point in their life. Who said that? Alex Ramosi?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I think someone else said it, but he said it again,
yeah,
and
it
I
was
remembered
through,
him saying
Elon.
it. Yeah. So I'll go with Alex. But yeah, you have to plan for everything, including your lights being turned off.
Yeah, absolutely. So that kind of is a good lead in because you're right. That is a great way to get that preliminary information to find out kind of the general populace's idea of what a specific location is looking like. Another one is networking. So she had brought up networking in the food and beverage industry, and to be fully honest, I had never actually considered networking in food and beverage itself as like a common thing. She had went to a food and beverage expo recently and tried different foods, tried different bakeries and things like that. And it gave her the information she needed so that way when she does open up a new restaurant or does start another cafe using the Podular model to, keep showing that Podular is successful and it works, she knows exactly who to reach out to. She has those connections already made. Another big thing when it comes to networking in the food and beverage space is really just as simple as go to the location where you're thinking about opening a store or a brick and mortar, and then trying to just speak to the owners or whatever management is there and say, hey, how's business going? Like, what are your weeks usually looking like? Do you ever have a slow period or an off period? Whenever you're looking at a school location like a college or a university, their demographic is going to be different from another location that might have more elderly, or it might have more young people, or it might have, different cultures, different ethnicities, different ideas. Everything is super, super specific to the point that the street that you are on dictates everything.
100%. Yeah, like if I was trying to set up a pop-up Karen's Diner out in the villages of Florida, that probably wouldn't go well.
Start yelling at a bunch of old people.
Yep. Yeah. If you don't know the villages in Florida that are in or Ocala, it's solely retirement. Like you have some that are not, but it's like 90% retire elderly. So having a Karen's Diner pop up on the side of like their most popular Publix out there, Publix supermarket, it's not going to go well. I'm probably going to have the cops called on me. Even if I have like a permit and everything that I need to be out there, they're not going to like that. Now, if I was to try that somewhere else, such as UCF on a Friday night, and this would be like their off season, like they don't have games, they're just looking for something to do, that might go well. Yeah. Because you have young to mid age ranges there, and they're always looking for something to do, to have fun with. So like you said, you really have to gauge where you're gonna go, and you have to gauge your popularity. What was that word? Demographic.
There you go.
Yeah.
I knew you'd get there.
I got there.
But yeah, it's like you're absolutely right. A state is going to be different from another state, but then the city is going to be different from another city, and then the street is going to be different from the next street. Like it's really so specific because it's really its own culture. Like you look large scale, you go smaller scale. On another podcast, which we'll do that breakdown later, but I spoke to Jorge, and he spoke a lot about international. Like he used to travel a lot, and he was working with McDonald's overseas in Mexico and Venezuela and all these other locations. And with that, he got to learn up front towards the beginning of his career just how different every location is going to act, and how those different cultures kind of work together and work against each other.
Big difference, yep.
Yeah, like one thing that might work in downtown St. Louis is not going to work in East St. Louis.
Yep.
Like, you've just really got to understand the demographic, understand what might work in one area, and understand that it's not always going to work everywhere. So, yeah, really, really interesting stuff with these two. I really liked, like I said, just how unique their business models are, and how it's something that really anyone can do. Like, it doesn't have to be, you don't need a giant time commitment to start your dream. You can start super, super small. Another episode that we had recently with Sunnyside, I actually really enjoyed a lot. They spent 3 years doing bakeries, selling sandwiches and things like that at bars and at markets and things like that without having any brick and mortar. They would get immediate feedback, and then that would then help them change the recipes, change, the flavors, get different ideas, and also grow within their community. So this was a lower budget way for them to still get that community outreach, to still get that food focus groups, to still get all that feedback. And then from there, after 3 years of this continuous cycle of testing, improving, changing, testing, trying out, improving, then they finally opened their brick and mortar. And then after opening the brick and mortar, they ended up really doing the same thing, still testing, still changing things, still seeing what worked and what didn't work. And because they already made kind of a name for themselves within their community, I wouldn't say instant success, but certainly better than someone that was a complete blank slate, no prior experience, no one knew who they are or who they were or anything about them. Like, they got to start with a little bit of a stronger foothold in the community. And then from there, they continued on, and once they did receive awards and recognition for the food that they've been practicing on for 4 years up to this point, that's when they decided, okay, I think that my product is now good enough after 4 years to finally start pushing out on social media, to finally start doing press releases and things like that to get more people in the door. But it took 4 years of trial and error of, essentially failing to end up actually having something that worked for them. And it just goes to show, like, everything takes time. No one's going to start something and it be an immediate success. And if you do, kudos, because I have not seen that for myself. But that's just how it is. Everything is super slow. Everything takes time. Everything is based off of the small wins, the small successes. And it really just comes down to how much effort are you going to put in without seeing the outcome.
You're going to spoil the podcast. It hasn't been released yet.
Check out on the next podcast with Sunnyside Kitchen.
Two, right? You gotta slow down there, bud.
Well, like I said, we're just giving small tidbits here.
It doesn't get released till November. Stop
it. But yeah, I really like the ideas of these two individuals, Jason and Jasna, doing what they believe in, like following their dreams. These two are actually starting out reasonably small. Both Jason, at the time of the podcast, had only done 2 shows with Infinite Wonder, and those 2 shows were on prolonged nights. They did, I believe, an Emerald City one. I'm drawing a blank now, but they had a few different shows, and they were open multiple nights, and they were all in all successes. And I know Jasna is going on her own kind of marketing tour right now to push Podular out. So we're actually seeing these two in a reasonably new state for them. And I think it's really, really cool to see them here and then see, in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, what is it going to look like? Because like I said, with all these other companies that I've spoken to, I mean, genuinely, out of every single restaurant owner that I've spoken to recently through the Culinary Conversations, all of them have said at least the first 2 years they were negative. Like they were net negative as far as making money, as far as, doing those things. So just goes to show time is everything.
I already heard you earlier. Okay. That's outside of the podcast. No, but Manny does have a really good point with time really is everything. I know many of us will feel like it's against us and we just don't have enough time in the world to get things done. Life truly is really short, so it matters with every second what you do with it. Looking at today alone, how much did we crunch in one morning trying to get everything done? And then I still pushed to do the podcast because I'm like, no, we have time. Like I really wanted to make sure this got taken care of because, like you said, we have to stay consistent. We have to get this content out there. So looking at like restaurants and realistically any goals, like you don't have to be striving for restaurants to follow this. It's just make sure you have your dedicated time assigned. Have backup plans. Don't just have a plan A and then when plan A falls through, you're like, well, I guess I did my best because you really did it. If you had plan A and that's all you had, did you really have a plan? Not really. So keeping your plans together, adapting to change, sticking to a schedule. If something happens to where you can't stick to the schedule and there has to be something changed about it, make sure that you properly reroute your schedule in the future to adjust to any unforeseen changes. And a lot of people are like, well, how would I know unless it happens? That's the part of planning. That's literally what you're supposed to be planning for is if something were to happen, will this severely affect me? And oh my gosh, what is the word in English? Look who's talking. But and try not to give up so easily. We're what are we on 2 years right now for Omni?
Yeah.
Omni HR, and we're still waiting for it to. What is this motion? Lift off. I'm doing the motion. It's not like you guys can see me. But yeah, we're still waiting for it to lift off, and I'm following Manny's hope because I'm a very negative person, but Manny's got a lot of hope, and he's right. We have to stick to it. We have to stay consecutive. We have to keep it going for it to get somewhere, and it's the same with everything and everywhere. So I think that what Jasna and Jason were doing here are very wonderful examples. Like they have their own things going on in their lives, but they stuck to it. Mm-hmm. And just like the sunny side, I won't repeat too much because you already ruined half of it.
Great episode. I really enjoyed talking to them.
But them too, for 4 years to like fully implement, all right, this is what is successful. This is what we're happy with. This is what we'll push. And I think that type of time and dedication to get not just a product, but a successful product that is worth someone's time and money, that is like, I can't wait to publish that one. But that is really important information. Like you don't want to just put out garbage.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole time is of the essence.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool too. This is going a little more generalized, but right now we're doing the Yelp Top 100 Restaurants campaign, mm-hmm. and having the opportunity to speak to all of these owners is really interesting. Like, it's really eye-opening for me personally because it really is just time. Like, it really is just, what are you focused on? Are you focused on the actions? Are you focused on the quality? Are you focused on the actual things that need to be done, not the outcome? Because that's always what it has to be. Because like I said, the outcome is a lagging indicator of success. Like after you get the outcome, that's like you already won, essentially. Like you already got
the good outcome.
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, good or bad, it's really just making a decision. But yeah, like, like you're already, in that positive zone. But all the work, all the thankless days, all the hard nights, and all the long hours, that doesn't get a good job. That doesn't get a pat on the back. That gets nothing. Like that. Like there's no slow clap. like in the audience. There's no one cheering
Shia
for
LaBeouf
you.
won't be slowly clapping to then
There you go.
have a standing ovation at the end. Sorry, guys. I'll admit that's one of the issues I have too. Is like I'm constantly looking at where is the outcome for anything, not just not just looking at Omni, but like my day-to-day work or looking at the kids. Like Zoe's been studying, and I'm just like, where's your outcome? And I want to see that outcome. I'm impatient. That's the
Yeah.
problem. And I think a lot of us struggle with that is that we put in so much work and we are like, man, I accomplished something. But who is here to recognize or what do I get out of it? And it's a problem that I think a majority of humanity has, which leads to many downfalls. Is that we're so impatient to get to that positive outcome that we give up too soon.
I definitely agree with you there. I think that when it comes to entrepreneurship, that's actually one of the positives is you see it from the beginning. Like from the day one of you deciding to be an entrepreneur or deciding to be a business owner or whatever, like on that first day, you realize that no one is moving the needle but you. Like it's completely plain to see.
I don't have that mindset.
Like it's very obvious. Like if you're not the one putting in the effort, doing the research, doing the actual work itself, no one's gonna do it for you. Like I mean, they have this saying like no one can work out for you. Like you can't pay someone to learn something for you. You've got to just do it, and it's hard and it's difficult and it takes time and effort, and the outcome can take 5 years before you reach success.
It sucks.
But the whole point is not giving up and also realizing that like you're not alone. Like all in all, everyone had to go through this. I mean,
like
Jeff,
you might be alone on the road, but you're not alone. Like you have to further evaluate this for people because like there are people who will say, I'm alone, I'm doing this by myself, there's no one here to help me, but they don't realize that there have been others on that road.
Yeah, there's other cars on the road even if you don't see them.
Yeah, that's really good. But so yeah, it's just that's why I was just like, elaborate a little bit on that because like you said yourself with the Omni, you're like, I'm all by myself, which you're not by yourself. But, Manny's all by himself, but he's not by himself. And I'm not talking about myself with, helping where I can with the social media or whatever. But looking at that road to success, to entrepreneurship, and you look at, I think you had just mentioned briefly Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
Or Mark Zuckerberg or Tom, I forgot his last name, for MySpace. And it's just like I'll use just the bigger names because I don't remember many. Yeah. But you look at these guys who started either in a shed or a garage, and it's like they had to start by themselves, but they had to pass by other people.
Yeah. Just
like on the road.
Yep, exactly. And that's a really interesting one. That's one of the big topics that Alex Hormozy talks about is the lonely chapter. And I've definitely seen it, felt it. I'd say that I'm still in that portion of it. And
would you consider it a hurt?
Good question. I don't know if I'd consider it a hurt. It's more of just something that you have to do. Like it's something that you have to go through. Mm-hmm. It's almost like trying to skip to the end of the journey and slaying the dragon, right? But you didn't go through the steps of beating all the level 1 trolls. Well, exactly. Yeah. Like you gotta start at level 1. You've got to pass the tutorial. You've got to beat the trolls. You've got to pass those goblins. Like you've got to do all of the steps in the beginning to give yourself the tools to then beat, the boss at the end. And then eventually you realize there is no boss because the whole point is to just keep playing.
Yeah.
Like the whole point is just to stay in business. And that's what OmniHR's goal is. That's one of the conversations we've had, full transparency is my goal is to keep our doors open no matter what. Like if someone calls and they want support, I need to be able to help them out, whether it's with payroll, recruiting, building their foundation for their restaurant or developing a plan to help them scale, like, we have to be able to do that. And if we can't do that, then there has to be another thing that we're doing. But the ball has to move forward, whether that's 1 yard line at a time or whether I can throw a crazy touchdown pass. Like, the game has to keep going. And it's tough, but
It sucks.
everyone has to go through it. And that's what leads to
It's
success.
nothing easy. Okay, a lot of people will be like, starting a business is as easy as 1, 2, 3, and you get all this jarble online that
was one of my first videos that I did on YouTube.
My gosh. Well, you know what? You're wrong. Because starting a business, anyone can start a business. Quite literally. You can start a business in name only.
Yeah.
You go to your state, your city, you get established. And it's super easy, as that could be starting a business, which essentially, what you said is right, but it's also wrong.
See, it's right. Successful is different from starting a business.
That's there it is.
Yeah.
Being successful. Because you can start a business, you can get established with the IRS, you can pay out to become an LLC or whatever you want to become, an S Corp, whatever. And then leave it at that. Keep your records up to date and just be a business in name only. But if you want to be a successful business, that's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not. It's a lot of hurt. It's a lot of heartache. There's a lot that has to be done in business. I don't know many business people. That's just not my realm. I don't do anything to associate myself with business people. It's nothing against them. It's just I know that I'm not the type that's boring. You do. You have fun with that. But what I'm trying to say is don't try to take shortcuts. This business 1, 2, 3, or it's as easy as learning your ABCs. I'm trying to remember all the little advertisements I saw on YouTube feeds when you were YouTubing how to become a business. But it's these little short videos and the videos that are like 10 minutes long. They're not going to get you to become successful in life with a successful business. They might get you started, but they're not going to get you to your end point.
Yeah.
You got to put the work in. Stop relying on unreliable sources.
Absolutely. No, I definitely, I like it. You want to talk about happiness? I feel like we're talking about so much random stuff. I know that's another discussion that...
It's not random. It's part of the business. And, I mean, like, we were slightly off of Jasna and Jason, but, I mean, I blame you. But, no, I don't want to talk about happiness. I want to stick to the topic and
this is the topic.
See how it goes.
So one of the parts of it, all right, not necessarily happiness itself, but one of the parts of it is, this might be a little more philosophical in sense, but it's realizing we still have time. Like, it's really hard to see the day-to-day as being worth it, or as, like last week, can you be proud of the time that you put into the things that you worked on last week? For myself, I can. Like, I did things that moved the needle forward, whether it was for OmniHR, whether it was for making money for my family, whether it was spending time with my family. Like, those are my focuses. That's what I care about. So if I put most of my time towards the things that I prioritize, that I care the most about, then that is success.
Is it okay if you are proud of some things, but you're a little disappointed in the things that did not get done?
Yeah, of course. And I mean, even that, being proud of the stuff that you did, first off, is great, right? It's identifying, like, these are the things that I want to do. I did them. I want to then continue doing those things. Mm-hmm. On the other side, it's identifying I didn't do certain things. How can I make sure that in the future I implement that? Yeah. And you just slowly, it's really weird. It's almost like as I got older, I learned more time management skills. I'm laughing about that because I was told by one of my bosses. He's
always been so terrible with time management.
That's not true.
We took a switch. I know you're about to tell a story, but we took a switch because Manny used to be terrible with time management. He said it's not true. Yes, it is true. It would be, if it wasn't anything that wasn't in his interest, he'd always be late. And
That's not true.
yes, it is. Shut up. Give me a second. And there was always an issue with now you made me lose my train of thought.
Well, it's because you're wrong.
No, it's just like if it wasn't for you, you weren't interested in being there on time, and we were always late, and there was always an issue of procrastination.
Oh, that's facts.
Manny, oh my gosh. And we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty about like cleaning your room or something like that. We've been together for a hot minute. But no, we'll get into like just taking care of things. I would get this man things from Amazon, and I would tell him, test it out during the return window, and if it doesn't work, I'll just return it. This man wouldn't even open the box for like 3 months.
It's because I didn't need it.
It doesn't matter.
Because I didn't need it.
It does not matter. Either way, and it gets worse. But eventually we flip the script. And now I have a hard time getting to places on time. I have a lack of interest in doing things. It's so weird. I'm putting things off. Like I have paperwork sitting on my desk and bulletin board. It says critical notice, and I'm still not paying attention to it. So now Manny is on top of his time. He's on time to almost everything. If it involves me, we're late. And if I buy something, he immediately like deals with it. He's like, all right, it's not worth it. Send it back or whatever. You know, we go from there. And it's what happened?
For me, I can't comment on you. I don't know what's going on in your head.
I'm stressed.
For me, I kind of realized that my time is worth something.
Good for you.
Like I don't know. I guess when I was younger,
you.
I
Good
didn't
job.
have that viewpoint that it was kind of just like, I didn't care about really.
This man
most
is
things.
29 and he says when I was younger.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that's 29 whole years.
Okay. But you were going to tell a story too.
I didn't worry about it. I had a boss who told me that I had to work on time management even though I was the best employee. That was
it Domino's or UPS?
No, that was it. That was at DraftKings.
Navy? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yes. You were the only one getting things done on time.
Might be a stretch, but
Yeah.
I think that I was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm not just talking out my butt here. We literally worked for the same company. It's not our first time working together, but while we were working at the casino, Manny was the only one who submitted his stuff on time, and sometimes even early, while the rest of his department was just not with it.
I mean, I definitely had areas I could improve on.
Hardly.
I will certainly say, seeing it now, like, I definitely had areas that I can improve on. Which, even just that, like, I really thought that I was a stud back then as far as, like, getting my work done, communicating, things like that. And now, I look at the work that I put in then, and I realize, like, that's not enough. And, I don't know, it's just one of those things that I guess come with time, or whatever, however you want to view it, but maybe it was also partly because of the company, like, partly because of Omni HR, and realizing...
You need to get your stuff together?
Yeah, just how much work has to go into something for it to actually be successful.
Do you think having a partner, and I say partner because in this
You got this.
situation, I was trying to say both of them at the same time, but in this situation, your partner is your wife, me. For other people, it could be literally a business partner, a friend, a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, for businesses, stuff like that. Do you think that by having a partner to kind of kick you in your rear helps? Like, hey, I haven't seen you do anything, or hey, you're not doing as much as you can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely think that it helps. I think that the way it works is dependent.
Mm-hmm.
I think either they have to, like that reminder of like, hey, objectively, this is the effort that I've seen so far. Do you want to get to here? In which case, how are you going to fix it? Or, on the other hand, it's, I see you doing this, let me handle this other thing, so that way we can move the ball even further.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big kind of
It depends on who
narrative.
your supporter is.
Yeah.
Like, is your partner a supporter, or are they a deferrer? Is that a word?
I mean, it's a word, but I don't think that's what you meant
I
to
don't
go
know.
with there. But
Like,
yeah, like, are they
are they
subtracting?
hindering what you're supposed to be doing because
Yeah.
they're trying to make you focus on something else, or they're just deterring you? Are they a snake in the bush?
Well, that's That's tough. That's tough too, because
You have to evaluate that.
yeah, and it can be something as simple as like, hey, I want you to spend time on X, Y, and Z, and it doesn't move the ball forward for the main goals. And that can be really, really hard, whether it's a significant other, whether it's a business partner, or whatever it is. Like, if you have a goal and then everything is based around time, really, like, what are you actually putting your time towards? Is it towards the major goal? And if not, then they are hindering you, whether they mean to or not. Like, if the goal is to spend time with your family and then you have a friend who calls you up, that's hindering you. Like, and if it's during family time or if it's whatever, like, that is hindering you. If you're trying to work and then, someone calls you, that person is taking time away from the thing that you are prioritizing.
Yeah.
And it can be very, very difficult to have that conversation or to kind of work around it. And at the end of the day, it just comes down to how much time are you putting into the things that you want to succeed.
Yeah. You have to really set your boundaries. You have to see things for what they are. I'm watching a show right now that this guy, he's a great guy. He messes up like any other human being, but all in all, he's a good guy. His close friend from childhood is his like partner. They have like a weird title going for him. His partner, business partner, his financial advisor, but because of this longtime family friend, childhood friend, whatever, is in charge of the money. This person, the main guy, is now bankrupt. And, you really shouldn't have that going on if you have a financial partner and a business partner that's supposed to be taking care of those aspects, right? Especially when annually you're supposed to be making around $14 million. How are you bankrupt? Is they're just splurging and on and on and on. And where's the family friend? He's there spending money, buying new cars, buying a boat, and it's like, family friend or not, you got to know when to cut someone loose. You got to know when to see they are bleeding you dry. Which I'm glad you mentioned the positive side of it, mentioning it more on the negative side, because you really have to have both eyes open.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's hard to see, especially whenever you're in it. It's really hard to see. One thing that I've come to realize now is you don't see when you're right. Like, you can't know if you're doing the right thing because you don't have any indicators telling you that you're right. Like, for me, I'll use working out as an example just because it's easy to see. I work out 3 times a week. I lift weights. And then I start to try to add cardio in 3 times a week as well. I don't hit my goals of working out 6 days a week every week, whether it be I'm just genuinely busy, whether it be I missed the windows that I give myself to do it, whatever. But at the end of the day, I know that I'm at least putting in the effort that I need to see some results. But those results don't come until 6 months after the day. Like, you're working out today for 6 months in the future, essentially, because that's when you're going to see the results. And it's really the same way when it comes to starting a business. When you're working at a restaurant and you are hiring your staff and you're training them, you're not training them for today. You're training them so that way 6 months from now, you don't have to be there because they know what to do. Like, everything that you do, that's the lens. Like, that's the mindset. It's not about the outcome. It's about the actions that you put in today. And it's tough. God, it is so hard. I love the song Vienna from Billy Joel. Love that song.
Obsessed with it right
now. I love that song. That song is my, like, jam right now. And it's honestly, it's because of the lonely chapter. It's because of putting in effort and not seeing the outcome. Like, that's why I like the song, because it's really telling you, like, hey, you've got time, take a breather. You can't always see when you're right, but you can always see when you're wrong. Like, it's
big facts.
Yeah, like, it's
now there are those that I'll try to do this quickly because we're coming up on our hour mark, but there are some who do have those indicators. I mean, they have advisors depending on how big you are or whatever, who will tell you, stop, 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 stop. And it gets louder, but you're ignoring it. In that case, you're wrong. If you have numerous people telling you that what you are about to do is going to be extremely consequential, why continue doing it?
I don't know. That depends, though. Because one, they've never lived your life. They don't have 100% of your perception.
Okay, so let's use this as an example.
Well, I'll just say it. So
Okay,
that's number one. Number two is that, do they currently have the life that you want? Like, are they currently at the level of success that you're looking for? Because if you want a quote-unquote normal life and those are normal people, then sure. But if you don't want a normal life and normal people are telling you something, they're wrong. And you have to fight their voices and do what you know you have to do. So I got to disagree with you there.
You have to weigh it. You have to really weigh it, because I hear what you're saying. You have to really weigh the cons and the pros and what they're warning you about. So, because I know that there are some people out there who they're just bad and they want you to be bad. They don't want to see you do good. They don't want to see you do good things.
Yeah.
Like, as a former teacher, I have seen parents that strive for their kids to be drug dealers.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really sad. Especially when their kids are showing ambition to do things like become a doctor, a mechanic, stuff like that. And their parents or their parent, whatever, have cut them out of their life because they are not following the life of crime because it's easy money. So in something like that, when you are raised in bad, surrounded by bad, and that's your life, so it should be good, right? You don't know any better. It's kind of hard to trust the indicators. Or if you're raised in good, surrounded by good, and then you're suddenly around bad, I'll use myself as an example. You know how naive I was growing up, and I had quite a bit of negative factors, so I couldn't trust anything. I couldn't trust anyone. So when a little bird came by and it was singing its sweet songs but doing bad things, I couldn't tell the difference. I couldn't pick up on those indicators.
Yeah.
So it's very hard. You really have to weigh out and try and play out how it's going to be in your head.
I get that.
If you have the time,
Yeah. I mean, I definitely get what you're saying. And perception on good and bad is so hard.
It is.
Because you could have two parents who are doctors and they only want the best for you or whatever, like any situation you can imagine.
And you could just assume that they're just tryhards.
Well, I mean, sure. I'm thinking like maybe they're in debt, maybe they're unhappy. Like there's so many views on good and bad. It's so subjective. My indicator for this is just, what is your actual goal? Like, what do you actually want? And with that mindset, what do you want your life to look like? Like, if you can't imagine, I can't imagine myself being a pop star, or I can't imagine myself being a rapper, or I can't imagine myself being an author or whatever. What do you want your day-to-day life to look like? What do you consider success? 60-year-old you, 80-year-old you in the future, what does the you of that time look like? Because they have to go through hardships. Their life is not always going to be butterflies and rainbows. It's just unrealistic. So with that viewpoint, what have they gone through to be the level of person they are? And make your life today push forward that narrative, like that goal. And that's it. Like everyone else's voice honestly doesn't matter. Whether they're cheering for you or booing you, whether they think they're doing the best for you or they're not, at the end of the day, what kind of person do you want to be? And is your day-to-day life pushing that narrative forward?
Yeah, you are your own person. I heed to warnings, but at the end of the day, just like Manny said, I make my own choices. So we are our own people.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you stuck with us this long, I truly appreciate it. If you like the content, please rate the show. And if you're feeling a little crazy, maybe share it with someone.